Never forget the day the humans brought down the Draconian Dominion. It's etched into my memory, and I'll carry it with me until my final breath. Do you remember it too, old friend? I asked softly, but the bed beside me remained silent, the only answer a faint, steady beeping. Of course you do. You were right there with me. The war began when I was just a hatchling, barely 2 cycles old. Our species had discovered humanity during a routine exploration mission. We stumbled upon one of their colonies tucked away on the edge of their star system. Instead of making peaceful contact, our Supreme Chancellor dispatched an entire honor fleet, accompanied by the Prime Envoy. To this day, no one truly knows who fired the first shot or what exactly went wrong, but what we do know is that a single stray shot hit the Prime Envoy's ship, killing him and the fleet commander instantly. The fact that the Prime Envoy was the Chancellor's only son only fueled the fires of rage. What followed was a massacre. The entire colony was wiped out, reduced to ash and rubble in a single furious attack. And just like that, we were at war. For years, we couldn't understand how humans managed to hold out against us. Their ships were slow, their shields weak, and their weapons severely underpowered. The only things they seemed to have in abundance were sheer tenacity and an alarming ability to reproduce. Every time we destroyed one of their colonies or obliterated a fleet, it seemed like 2 more rose up in its place. Their capacity to rebuild was unlike anything we'd ever encountered, and their determination in battle was beyond anything we'd ever seen. They fought with a stubbornness that defied all logic, throwing wave after wave of ships at us, seemingly without end. Then, after almost a cycle of relentless warfare, we noticed a shift. The humans started avoiding direct confrontations, opting instead for guerrilla tactics, raids, ambushes, hit-and-run attacks. When they did engage us in open battle, their fleets were smaller and more cautious, almost as if they were biding their time. The War Council began to believe that humanity was finally on the brink of defeat, that they could no longer sustain their resistance. How wrong we were. I was a junior communications officer, freshly graduated from training, just over 2 cycles old, about 40 of your Earth years. I was stationed at the War Council's Tactical Center, monitoring the latest developments. That's when our long-range sensors picked up an unexpected fleet entering our sector. We knew they were human, but the ship configurations were unlike anything we had seen before. There were only a dozen of them, and they looked like they were barely holding together, scrap ships, patched together from wreckage and debris. We didn't even bother to fire, they were so small and poorly armed, we assumed they were lost, possibly even surrendering. But then they opened fire, catching us completely off guard. Their weapons were weak, but they managed to damage our main long-range sensors before we could return fire. Our defense fleet annihilated them within moments, leaving only one ship limping away. Its engines overheated and disintegrated, leaving the wreck adrift. Our engineers scoured the wreckage for anything of value. The ships were practically junk, mismatched parts held together by sheer willpower. There were no survivors to interrogate, and the only noteworthy detail was a peculiar marking on the sole remaining ship, a name scrawled on the battered hull, the Gamble, followed by the number 2. We dismissed it as a minor detail, not understanding its significance. But then, exactly 2 rotations later, another human fleet appeared. This one was larger, better armed, and far more organized. Again, they attacked with a ferocity that caught us off guard, though we managed to repel them with minimal losses. As our engineers combed through the wreckage, they found the same pattern. Each ship bore a unique name, but all were marked with a number, 212. The War Council finally realized what the numbers meant, but by then it was too late. The humans were playing a different game, one that we had no hope of winning. 2 cycles later, another fleet arrived, this time carrying the mark of 312. The attacks became more frequent, more intense, with each new fleet growing in size and strength. We were losing ground, our forces spread thin, and morale crumbling. By the time the 912 fleet attacked, we were in full panic mode. The fleet was massive, over 1,000 ships strong, and bristling with weapons and shields that matched our own. We managed to fend them off, but not without significant losses. And as the debris settled, we realized that every ship in that fleet had been marked 9912. The War Council, once proud and unyielding, was now a shadow of its former self. Discussions of surrender began to circulate, whispers of defeat in the hallowed halls of power. We knew that if the humans continued their relentless assault, it was only a matter of time before they broke through. And then came the final fleet, marked 12. There were only 4 ships, but they were gargantuan, colossal constructs of metal and fire, bristling with weapons that could level a planet. We threw everything we had at them, sacrificing countless ships just to bring them down. When the dust settled, we had won, but at a terrible cost. The skies above our homeworld were filled with wreckage, the remains of our once mighty fleet. The War Council had no choice but to surrender. 2 rotations later, the human fleet returned, this time with a single message: peace. Their delegates arrived to negotiate terms, and for the first time, we saw them, these stubborn, relentless beings who had fought us to a standstill. And then, as they presented their terms, I noticed something strange. One of the human delegates held a red folder, the other a green one. Curious, I asked them what was in the red folder. The delegate smiled, a weary, knowing smile, and said, "These are the terms we would have offered for our surrender to you had your fleet reached our homeworld first." Only then did I realize the truth. The humans had been on the brink of defeat, just as we were. Those grand fleets they sent to fight us, they were the last of their resources, cobbled together from whatever they could find. They had nothing left, no more ships, no more soldiers, no more hope. But they had gambled everything on one final, desperate ploy to make us believe that they could keep fighting, that they had fleets upon fleets waiting to strike. And it had worked. They had bluffed us into surrendering. And now, here we were, allies in the aftermath of a war that could have destroyed us both. Now, as I stand here beside you, my old friend, I have just one question: what happened to the 12th Fleet? What was the meaning of that final number? The old man in the bed turned his head slowly, a faint smile playing on his lips. "Perhaps," he whispered, "some things are best left to the imagination."